Welcome back, or welcome home to the making of the Choir Imperfect album. Now, I hope you're having the best week ever in whatever corner of the world you come from. And to anyone joining us for the first time, I'm on a mission to create the biggest album collaboration of all time. And what does that involve, you ask? Well, alongside my artist project, hundreds to thousands of my followers collaborate with me and feature on my music under their own artist name, the Choir Imperfect. Now, we've released songs together like this one, and like this one. I wanted to take things to the next level and really get you guys involved in every step of the way. So that's essentially helping to write, create, and record an album from scratch. Now the aim is to grow the choir to 100,000 voices by the time the album comes out. So thank you for being a part of that journey, and let's get back to writing it. Now last week we outlined the structure of the album. 3 acts: loss, love, and home. Each featuring 4 songs that progress the story in some way and explore the topic. So we're starting this week with Act 1, Loss. So I asked you guys to send in your own stories and experiences so that we could start to put together a framework with which to sort of tackle this issue and these emotions. And look, I'm constantly humbled and amazed by how honest and how vulnerable you guys have been and the stories that you've sent through. So thank you for that. I can't share all of them here. We don't have time and it would get kind of messy, but I think I've replied to everybody. If I haven't, please send me an angry email and let's get into it. Now, one thing I wasn't expecting is that a lot of people got in touch with a totally different interpretation of the idea of loss. I kind of naively assumed that we would be talking about the people in our lives who have passed away. But many of you have also expressed the desire to talk about loss of self, loss of a relationship with your parents, and also this loss of your childhood innocence and missing that, which I absolutely love. I don't know, there's something really cool about the idea of you guys taking these ideas and then running with them, interpreting them in different ways that I would never even think of. It kind of gives me this feeling that we might be onto something really cool. So thank you guys for that. Now what I might do is save those conversations for the next couple of songs or the next couple of ideas, because still the overwhelming majority were people speaking on the loss of a life, of someone important in their life. Now, I'm gonna go through and share some of those stories and ideas. What I will say is that if some of these topics are triggering for you, maybe it's death or abuse, some violence, this might not be the video for you. I'll try to be sensitive, but moving forward, you may need to be aware of that. So the first story is actually from someone who wished to remain anonymous on Instagram, but I'm gonna read it to you now. Hey Pace, I just watched your video and I feel as though I'm ready to really share this. At the start of the year, I lost a really close friend in a tragic truck accident. He had only turned 24 a week prior. He'd been there with me through a bad breakup and wrote a message that I screenshotted, and no one had ever said anything like that to me before. When I found out he'd died, I began questioning my spiritual beliefs, what it all means and where does it go from here. It rocked my world and my reality. First song that came into my head when I thought of him was Sand in My Boots by Morgan Wallen. I don't know if you guys know that song, but I love Morgan Wallen. Beautiful song. It has an incredible way of just like storytelling, so I can understand that. I was numb for the first month afterwards. I was upset, I was angry, I was confused, but I knew that I had to let him go to be free and discover the world in another place. And once I did, he came back and he's been watching over me ever since. Now, first of all, anyone who has experienced this knows that the younger someone is when they pass, the more awful it seems to be. I know there's obviously the whole spectrum is tragic, but I really felt that story and I thought it was really beautiful, particularly this idea of like once you had kind of accepted the loss, then allowing space to feel them watching over you and being with you kind of moving forward. I thought that was a really beautiful idea and something we can kind of play with. Another one here from, I think, Bethany Jacobs, talking about their grandmother passing away and, you know, saying she's missed all my big birthdays and I cried every year because I miss her so much. I'm becoming a teacher and it's my way of honoring her because she was one. I thought that was kind of cool. I'd love to, love the idea of getting a message from your grandma the day you graduate teacher's college or whatever that may be. That's kind of sweet. Lise was talking about, it's my grandfather's death. In fact, it's not the memory of the death I think of, it's the aftermath. Now this was really interesting. I would have been a completely different person if he was still alive, and I think a lot about that. He was an artist. My grandmother's house is full of his paintings. He was really talented, always kind to us and others. He's the kind of person I would like to become in the future. Now this idea of I would have been a different person if this person was alive today. On a certain level, it's kind of like, yeah, of course, because they would have influenced you or whatever, but it's really a beautiful thing to say and a really huge compliment to someone to say that I think you would have changed me for the better. Now, obviously we can't know that, but I really loved that that idea. And they finished by saying, to me, my grandfather is like the mentor I never had, the one person I wish I could re-alive just to talk to him. Again, kind of cool to think about in terms of what we were kind of planning to do with letters maybe from people from different generations. Jennifer Vines, the person I miss the most would be my grandpa again, my grandma and grandpa on my dad's side. But she said, the one thing I do to cope when I'm missing them both is to sit with my guitar or sit with my keyboard, because the keyboard was my grandma's and the guitar was my grandpa's. So I've always just liked to just sit there and write and play music and think of them. So I really like that as well. Little tokens that you have of your grandparents. I know that, like, I always wear my grandmother's watch. I kind of like it, but it also just reminds me that she's, you know, a part of my life and she's had an influence on me, so I like to keep it with me. I also have my grandfather's pocket knife, but you're not really allowed to carry knives around, so. Now this next story was really, really interesting. Heather Reynolds spoke about, after years of not knowing if my father was even alive or where he was, and not for lack of trying, my cousin ran into him at the pub. And it wasn't actually where he was supposed to be going, but due to a rainstorm that day, and he was on his motorcycle, he'd stopped. So my cousin had talked to him, sent me pictures. Turns out it was him. I cried. She gave him my number. I'd not seen my father in over 17 years. He ended up calling me. He was clean and wanted to know about my life. We arranged to meet my other siblings. He met my husband for the first time, met our children, his grandchildren. We saw him 6 times over the course of a year because he lived in a different city, and then he passed away. I'm so thankful that we had him for that time. It was bittersweet, but allowed me to heal and forgive. I always wonder how and why that pub, that day, that time, why should she be there? We've all lived in the same city for years and no one ever ran into each other. I'm a firm believer that if the universe wants something to happen, it'll happen. This is like a song in and of itself. So definitely want to try unpacking some of these ideas as well. Like the universe delivering you the opportunity to have some closure and healing. So thank you for sending that through. We've got 2 more. Tarot by Purple Moon. I don't know if what the real name was, but that's a username. Biggest has got to be losing my gran 2 days before my son was born. The polar opposite feelings was something that I still struggle with today. She was the matriarch of the family, and I believe that she gave her place for him, the ultimate sacrifice. Now that is a powerful story in and of itself. Again, this idea of trading one life for another. Yeah, and it must have been really weird sense of conflicting emotions to grieve one person and then just have to welcome a baby into the world in that same time. So very beautiful. So you can kind of see that there's a whole bunch of stuff for us to work with. But this last email that I want to share, weirdly, is possibly the best place for us to start, and I'll explain why. Stanley Fisher emailed saying, hey Pace, last year I lost my older brother, and the biggest thing I still feel is just so unfair. If you're in your 20s, you're not supposed to lose someone like that. Now, kind of like the first story I shared, and I lost a friend of mine when he was 25 years old. And the biggest thing is just this overwhelming feeling of, oh yeah, this is so unfair. It's not supposed to happen. Your grandparents are supposed to die, but not someone like that. So I definitely feel that. But get this, I don't necessarily have my own ideas because I'm not really a creative person. Untrue. Everyone can be creative. That's why you're here. But I remember you once posted about a song last year that really stuck with me because, well, it just felt like exactly what I was feeling at the time. I remember listening to it over and over. Since you asked what I did or listened to that helped, well, I guess your song, Like Thunder in the Dark, was something that helped me. Now, this was particularly powerful for me because that song was actually, when I wrote it, it was inspired by me kind of losing the relationship that I had with my brother. Now, thankfully, he is still with us. He's still alive. But for many reasons, and I won't go into them for the sake of his privacy, it took me a long time to grieve the loss of that relationship, and it weighed very heavily on me for years. And I was quite nervous about where to start this process of writing. So this could be a cool or like an easy way to kind of ease into it, for lack of a better word. Now, to be transparent, I have actually finished a version of this song, but I didn't like it. I felt like it didn't really connect properly. It didn't really sum up exactly what I wanted to say, so I never thought to release it, and it kind of sat on the shelf. But it does have this big chorus that I think could be really amazing with the whole choir singing along. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share the audio that I recorded, the demo of it on the first day that I wrote it. And it's just piano and voice. It's kind of messy. It's not how it would be if we recorded it properly, but you'll get an idea of the song.
Like rain and stormy weather, so fierce when we're together. I've hopelessly been blinded by your lightning from the start. No pain should last forever. I swear that I'll get better. These clouds won't stop the beating in my heart, like thunder in the dark.
Now, what I'd like to do, if we kind of go down this route, is weave some of the elements of your stories into the song. But I'd love to have your feedback, whether you guys like it, whether you guys vibe with it, whether you think that it represents what we're trying to do here. Now, this doesn't have to be the first song on the album. It's just kind of a place to start creatively. So my question to you would be this: do you feel like the lyrics in this chorus reflect what it's like to lose someone close to you? And I'll leave it with that for the week. I don't want these videos to be too long, but have a think, have a listen. If it sparks anything in you, please let me know. And I can't wait to hear from you guys, read your comments and your replies. So I'll speak to you soon. Much love and big kiss.